"You are going to die tonight." I'm quoting George Zimmerman. This is what he said were some of the final words ever uttered by Trayvon Martin seconds before Zimmerman shot the unarmed 17-year-old, shot and killed him on February 26. We are now learning this from a slew of never-before-seen, never-before-heard videos, audio tapes released just today by the defense. What they do is they show Zimmerman undergoing lengthy police questioning. In fact, in one tape, Zimmerman even walks police through the scene and reenacts the shooting for them. This all adds up to the most detailed account yet of Zimmerman's side of the story.
When I got to right about here, he yelled from behind me to the side of me. He said, "Yo, you got a problem?"
I said, "Hey man, I don't have a problem." And he goes, "No, now you have a problem." And he punched me in the nose. At that point, I fell down. He ended up on top of me, and he just kept punching my face and my head, and I was screaming for help.
He put his hand on his nose, on my nose, and his other hand on my mouth. He said, "Shut the up."
I didn't know what he was hitting. It felt like he was hitting me with bricks. Each time I felt like my head was going to explode more than the last.
And he said, "You're going to die tonight, mother."
And he says, "You're going to die tonight."
"You're going to die tonight, mother."
I felt his hand go down on my side, and I thought he was going for my firearm. I grabbed my gun, and I don't know if he did at the same time.
And I grabbed it, and I just grabbed my firearm, and I shot him.
I just shot him, and then he falls off, and he's like, "All right, you got it, you got it."
I didn't think I hit him, because he sat up, and he said, "Oh, you got me. You got it, you got me, you got it," something like that.
CNN contributor Mark NeJame is an attorney who was originally asked to represent Zimmerman, but declined that. Mark, what information? We're just looking at some, pieces of these audio tapes and videotapes. What are we learning from watching this?
Well, it does appear that the police did a more extensive investigation than we all, or many of us, first thought. This seems to be pretty extensive. There is a videotaping, a reenactment, which is rarely done, and it does seem a fair amount of time, a lot of time actually, was spent in the investigation. Some might argue that the conclusion was wrong, but it does look like they did an investigation. That surprises most. For me, what's telling on this is that, to me, George Zimmerman really has very little credibility in light of his facilitating the misrepresentation about the bond money. So standing alone, I'm not concerned. But what's very important is if this is corroborative, if his story is corroborative with other witnesses' testimony or with forensics, then it's very, very compelling. Standing alone, I'm very doubtful. You corroborate it with other matters, then it's very compelling.
Let me play a little bit more here. This is more of Zimmerman's reenactment here at the scene. This is the day after, and this is how he explains how the struggle actually started.
He was about there, but he was walking towards me.
So he's coming this direction here?
Yes, sir. I believe, like I said, I was already past that, so I didn't see exactly where he came from, but he was about where you were.
Okay.
And I said, "No, I don't have a problem." And I went to go grab my cell phone, but I left it in a different pocket. And I looked down at my pant pocket, and he said, "You got a problem now." And then he was here, and he punched me in the face.
I mean, isn't the crux of this, Mark, the fact it's who started what? And when you just look at this video, do you think his account here is credible?
Well, that's what we have to find out from other witnesses. I mean, he sounds credible, but look, he can easily lie and still sound credible. You can't look at somebody and really tell if they're lying or not. The issue is going to be the independent witnesses. Yes, whether it's corroborated or not. It's very simple that we have a situation where the forensics are going to corroborate what he said, or we're going to have independent witnesses who corroborate what he said. But standing alone, it's one person who's a suspect at the time. But if there's other people that help him, then it could be extremely important in this case. I think what you're going to find both sides doing, since this is such an extensive statement, you're going to find both sides picking it apart. The state trying to show discrepancies, and the defense trying to show where this couples in with what other witnesses are going to say or what the forensics show.
Mark, do me a favor. I want you to stand right there because I want to bring in our correspondent, George Howell. He's in New Orleans, where he sat down exclusively with Trayvon's father and his attorney. And, George, how are they reacting now to this new audio tape, videotape evidence that's been thrown out there just today?
Brooke, you can tell that this is very hard on the family as these details continue to come out, that they are forced to relive these painful moments. And there's a lot that they cannot talk about regarding this case, given that some of their statements can be used in depositions in this case. But their attorney, Ben Crump, did talk about George Zimmerman's account of what he says happened. A moment ago, you asked, who did what first? Well, here he says that we should pay very close attention to what Zimmerman wrote in his statement to police, where he says that he got out of his car to look for a street sign. Crump says there's some that he left out in that statement. Take a listen.
Listen to it for yourself in that 911 tape why he said he got out of that car. He says he's getting away. And then he says, he pursues them. It's one of those things where the 911 operator said, are you pursuing them? And he said, yes. He said, we don't need you to do that. So he profiled and pursued Trayvon Martin. And he didn't put that. He conveniently left that out of the written statement. And this is his written statement on the night.
It's a roller coaster. You have your good days and your bad days. Certainly as parents, we have bad days because we're dealing with the loss of our son.
Tracy Martin there, the family invited to be part of a panel discussion here in New Orleans hosted by the National Association of Black Journalists, talking specifically about this case, Brooke.
George Howell, thank you. I want to just go back to CNN contributor Mark NeJame here. And Mark, final question, and I know we said at the top, you turned down this case, but had you taken it, would you have released these evidence tapes?
Well, there's an obligation to do so. Florida has a reciprocal discovery rule, and basically anything that either side has to be given to the other. So the fact is that there would be no choice. In order for it to be admissible and to follow through with your legal and ethical obligations, both sides have to give each to the other all their information, evidence, and discovery. So that's all that happened here.
Okay, we'll see how they play out if and when there is a trial and if and when others can corroborate, to your point, Mark. Mark NeJame and George Howell, I thank you both.